Welcome. This is Fightful's Raw post show. Um, it's not Sean Ross Sapp, of course. Sean Ross Sapp is out in Dallas covering AEW All In. Um, also, no Ebu as well. But you got two other black guys, so we're close enough. um, of course, I am Phil Lindsey, co-host of Grapsy Podcast, but I'm also here with SP3, who has graciously joined us to cover this episode of Raw. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing well, and I am glad we are making this Mocha Monday Night Raw because you gotta get two brothers in here. When one brother's missing, you gotta get two brothers to fill in. It's only right. So we're gonna bring the Mocha flavor for this Monday night. And as far as promos go, a good episode of Monday Night Raw. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, if you were looking for a lot of in-ring action, this was not the show for you, but we did get a lot of angles moving forward. We got a lot of stuff to build towards Saturday night main event. A lot to get into in terms of like actual promos and stuff. But you guys know how these things go. If you have tuned in for a Fightful post show before, send us your super chats. That is the best way to get your comment read online. Also, can send us your humper chats via humperchats.com/Fightful. We will read those as well. I did not know what to think coming into this show, I will immediately say, because last week's episode was very good. I thought the opening was great with the Seth and Punk stuff. The New Day stuff was great as well. Bring it back to McIntyre, also great. So I was hoping, like, man, this is going to be a great follow up. I didn't quite hit that mark, but it was an enjoyable episode. What did you think overall?
Yeah, I think they hit us with a high last week because we haven't hit the high. I think like this past summer, we had a good stretch of shows, like the memorable ones, like the Wyatt Six debuting and stuff like that, and Drew and Punk kind of being a centerpiece of Monday Night Raw. We were on a good stretch of Monday Night Raws, and then we went a couple of months without a good to great Monday Night Raw, and we got one last week. And this was more of a follow-up or setup show for Saturday night's main event and next week's Monday Night Raw. So enjoyable,
Yeah.
like you said, but nothing like I'm not going to be raving about this one like I did Monday Night Raw last week.
Yes. Uh, JK is saying Phil ain't slick with his Monday Night Rollins shirt. Listen, it's Monday night. You guys know that I'm a Rollins guy.
This
Um,
is true.
why not, man? Like, listen, if this is where we are. I'm not always on this post show hosting Raw, so it only felt right that you guys know exactly where I stand. Uh, it
You
is what
you
it is.
got you got to be conflicted though. You got to. It's like the two of your kids fighting over the last piece of chicken in the house. You got to be a little bit conflicted here.
Uh, Matt Logan says, "What? No Reg? I'm not sure what Reg is doing this evening, but I can't imagine that he would have been in a rush to help me review this episode of Monday Night Raw."
I was like, Mr. In-Ring Wrestling Reg, you wanted
Yeah,
him to talk about this show.
Mr. Spot Food himself, guy that wants to see the flippy stuff. He didn't get a much of that on Monday night, so might not be his preference, but yeah, let's get into this episode. To start off, got here multiple SmackDown wrestlers were available due to this transfer window. This transfer window thing is interesting. We first started seeing stuff from this on last week's episode of SmackDown. It kind of feels like another iteration of the wild card rule where it's like, hey, here's a way to get these people on this show to raise interest heading into WrestleMania season, but also kind of a way to do a quick, easy breezy shake up if you want ahead of Raw going to Netflix.
Yeah, basically that's what we're getting. We're getting the what is it? What was they used to call it so many different things like brand was shake up, and then there was the wild card rule, then there was the every 3 week rule, and now this is just a different iteration of it. We're gonna see guys going back and forth. We're gonna see some guys that might possibly kind of all really transfer over, because if you're gonna call it a transfer window, we got to have guys that are actually moving from one brand to another. We can't just do these backstage segments where we get guest appearances like that. As far as like people that I think could make a move in this. I think it's going to be guys that are not like main eventers, top
Mm-hmm.
stars. I think it's going to be more of like the upper mid card to lower card. Like the biggest star I could see making the transfer over is LA Knight. Because I feel like, yeah, he could go back and chase after Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship, but I think he has a higher ceiling on Monday Night Raw. I don't see him going after the WWE Championship on SmackDown, but I could see him going after the world title on Raw.
Yeah, and I think Brian Breaker would also make a great opponent for him down the line if he wanted to go for the IC title. Um, I will say the stuff on SmackDown with Chad Gable and American made me think, hey, these guys could use a change of environment. They did
Sure.
have some momentum at some point, and then once the Wyatt feud was over, there wasn't really much for them to do. So I could see them going over there. I think the Creeds could work well in the tag division, and it would make all the sense in the world for Gable to go for the United States Championship.
Yeah, it's very true. I when he came out on SmackDown, I was like, I can see you mixing it up with like the Cody Rhodes, the Roman Reigns over here on SmackDown, and it just felt like you said, after the Wyatt 6 feud, that was kind of it. That was kind of it. Like they missed the peak on the Alpha Academy storyline, which I feel like is one of the rare blunders of 2024 for Triple H and this creative team, is that they missed the peak completely on the whole Otis storyline. And then they went into the Wyatt 6, which was basically just heating up the Wyatt 6 for whatever they were going to do next, including tonight where they lost. But I think that Chad Gable, he has upward mobility on SmackDown that he doesn't have on Monday Night Raw, even though Raw, realistically is probably going to have more time with going back to 3 hours on Netflix. But on SmackDown, I kind of see there's kind of a void of heels outside of like Solo and Kevin Owens.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely agree with that. If my vote immediately after seeing how well they looked on SmackDown is to see those guys move to SmackDown, I think they would do very well. They're very interestingly, seemingly teasing the world champions for both brands possibly swapping, because we did see Gunther on SmackDown, and then tonight we saw Cody. Cody made sure to tell Creed and Kofi that he was ashamed of them.
He stands up for what's right. That's what everybody wants us to believe. But I love the reaction. I love the reaction to everything New Day on this show, especially that backstage segment. But I find it interesting that they are teasing that. I don't know about you, but I really feel like the long-term direction is them putting the WWE Championship on Netflix on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I've been thinking that as well. That it kind of feels like Cody would fit better on Netflix with what Netflix is going to represent for WWE moving forward. And also, I just think he needs to be away from some of this bloodline stuff. I think it would be a good move for him. Also, with some of the stuff with Sammy that they teased on SmackDown, could also see Kevin Owens moving to Raw as well.
Yes.
Kickstart that feud going into WrestleMania. I would be mad either way. Gunther on SmackDown would be a good fit for him as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who is going over in this transfer window, but I like the teases because it's making us kind of have conversation to talk about here. But let's get into this episode here. Keep coming with. I see we got a few super chats and a few humper chats, so keep coming in with those, and we'll talk about this episode of Monday Night Raw here.
Yeah, we got one from regular Meat Normus. He says, "Sup partners? Shout out to my 3-19 Wiz. Let's win the lotto. Let's games. Now let's crank. This was a talking episode of Raw. Football is tonight." Yeah, I definitely laughed after your super chat from Saturday in Grapsity, and you talked about how miserable it's been being a Wizards fan, and the Wizards all of a sudden pulled out this absurd win over the Denver Nuggets. Jokic having a 50-plus point game.
50 point, what was it? Was it a 50-point triple double or something like that?
Yes, it wasn't enough to topple the measly Washington Wizards. Happy for you, Beat Normus. Not a lot of things to be happy about as a Wizards fan, but at least that was something.
got to hang your cap on that. That's like a spiritual championship for them. Did you know that the Wizards had the worst point differential of any NBA team in history through 20 games? And then they faced
but I could have guessed. What do you think of this What do you think of this celebration that Jordan Poole is doing now, where he's making it seem like you're like drowning in the water of pools? Like, what is this, bro?
Yo, I love Jordan. I love Jordan Poole. I could never not love Jordan Poole because he is just so unserious, and that's why he is in the position that he's in, and he takes some of the worst shots in all of the
Jesus
MMA.
Christ. Sure. But yeah, keep sending your super chats and your humper chats. We got another one from Jared. He says 75% of Raw was women's wrestling. Also, with the women outpacing the men in NXT, how do you think the main roster will look in the next few years? I think that's a great point. The women did have a bulk of the matches tonight. I think the women have been by far the highlight of NXT. The depth of the NXT women's division has been incredibly impressive. It's only a matter of time before Roxanne moves up to the main roster. I'm very curious if we're going to see Becky Lynch back at the beginning of 2025. I have to guess that we are. Um, Probably going to be a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble match. But I've been saying if you want to bring a woman up to the main roster and you have not done this probably since Oscar, where somebody came straight up and won the Royal Rumble match. I wouldn't be mad if Roxanne came straight up and won the Rumble.
That would be an interesting one. I'd say I can see it more if she was still plucky underdog babyface Roxanne. Even though I feel like the cocky narcissistic heel Roxanne is the better Roxanne. It's the more evolved Roxanne, where she's still great in the ring, but now she has a bit more character. She's showing off her mic skills a bit more. But I don't know if I could see that character coming in first night, winning the Royal Rumble. I think that you are right though. She is going to get called up in this year's
Mm-hmm.
Royal Rumble because I don't understand if you have Julia win this Iron Survivor match, are you really going to have her lose a second title match against
I
Roxanne? It,
I don't see it.
that would be booking malpractice. So I believe in Shawn Michaels way too much to believe he's gonna do that. So Julia has to win at New Year's Evil. So then Roxanne gets called up in the Rumble, and then I could see her going to like a Monday Night Raw, being probably in like the women's Intercontinental title scene, and maybe even in the world title scene. I could see her in either or because she's so good. She's top 5 this year. If you don't have her in your top 5 women's wrestlers, you haven't been paying attention to NXT. That's how good she's been, and that's how
That's
much the NXT women's division is just lapping the men's division. It's ridiculous.
no, that's 100% facts. Roxanne has been incredible this year. One of the best women's wrestlers, I think, in the entire world this year. Um, Also, just one of the best performers overall. I think just
Yeah.
the improvement she's made as a character and a talker, along with the in ring stuff. We already knew she was a really good wrestler, but I think she's definitely improved a lot in terms of the other aspects that she didn't have when she initially got to NXT.
Yeah, she's really just become a polished overall performer. That's like one of the highlights of Tuesday night. So I'm looking forward to her getting called up. Looking forward to her. Like I said, I think Monday Night Raw is probably a better fit for her, but I wouldn't mind her on SmackDown either. But the NXT Women's Division is still going to be stacked because you got Julia and Stephanie Vaquer we're going to get in 2025. It seems like we got Zarya in there. We got all these young ladies like Sol Ruka who had a all-star performance in that women's Iron Survivor, which stole the show last night. I mean, on
Mhm.
Saturday night. So yeah, give it up to the NXT Women's Division. I'm excited to see Roxanne on the main roster.
Yeah, very excited to see what the women's rumble looks like this year. I think you
Yeah.
could get a surprise here or there. Right now, Becky has to be the favorite to win this thing, right?
Yeah, I think she comes back on the Netflix Rumble. I mean, the Netflix Raw, just to kind of like hype up the Rumble, like kind of be like, I'm going to be the first entrant in the Raw Rumble. And yeah, I think that she has to be kind of viewed as one of the favorites. I think we could also see Rhea Ripley win another one if she's not going to be in a title match against Liv Morgan, which I could see that happening on the Netflix premiere as well after tonight's show. I can see Rhea
Yeah.
and Liv.
Yeah, very curious to see if that's where Jade returns. Jade returns as a heel. There's a lot of things that, like looking at it now, that I think you can look forward to in the women's rumble.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see, we got. I think no, I did not skip that one. from Will Chisholm. Sorry, back. From Will Chisholm, he says Netflix said looks Playboy, look Playboy. We're grieving y'all all the money, so we need some. We're giving y'all all the money. Sorry, giving y'all all the money, so we need some big stars. Absolutely, I can see Cody or somebody else from SmackDown that they want. I mean, other than Roman, it's Cody, right? The biggest star you can bring to
Yeah.
SmackDown.
I think that WrestleMania season we're gonna see there's gonna be no brand split. We're gonna see Cody and Roman on Raw and SmackDown all the time. I think that's already been kind of in the reports that Netflix and Raw's has plans around Roman Reigns on the road to WrestleMania. I'm just interested to see if all the reports from here on Fightful, Wrestling Observer is right, and that we're gonna have a WrestleMania without The Rock. I think that makes the road to WrestleMania so much more interesting to me because I think that
It,
we've all had Rock in our WrestleMania main event plans
yes.
since last year's WrestleMania. So this is just a big kind of wrench they're throwing into the plans by having him not in it.
Um, yeah, it does make the bill more interesting, but it is very funny that this was the year that people thought this was going to be the year we got this Rock Roman match. Then Cody forced their hand, and it's like, oh well, we still got next year. Maybe not. I don't know. Uh, uh, we got another one from Will Chisholm. He says, I thought Roxanne couldn't be a good heel like I thought Bailey couldn't. Happy they both proved me wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I thought that it was an odd decision to make Roxanne a heel at first as well, but she's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, that's a great comparison because those are two people that when they first turned heel, I was like, I'm not sure about this. They're kind of like the perfect baby face, but they have really both shined in their own way and kind of proven that they are kind of like these versatile performers that can make it work on either way. But I think even more than Bailey, I think that Roxanne has shined to the point where I think that she could be a career heel. That's how good she is in this role.
Yeah. Uh, Beardsley is correct. We also are probably going to see Big Charlotte Flair very soon as well.
That's another Royal Rumble favorite.
Some people are not going to be excited about that, but yeah, you got to think there's some more titles on the board, and new titles mean Charlotte Flair is probably doing the Cody meme of like her ear to the ground. Streets is talking. Streets says that there's some new titles for me to win. Let me get back post haste.
Let me go win some title. There's new titles for me to win. Okay, I'll be back soon. Yeah, I think she's gonna be in the mix for sure. I think we get like either her versus Nia Jax or her versus Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania, and so you could use the Royal Rumble to get there.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious to see how Jade is going to factor in, because is this the year we pull the trigger on Jade versus Bianca, or do we finally do the Charlotte Bianca match that they've been pushing down the road? Or are we going Bianca Rhea, which they've also pushed down the road a few
I,
times?
they done honey dicked me way too many times. I am sorry.
Yo,
I am
what?
doing it. Honey dicked. They have honey dicked us as fans too many times with Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. No, too many
What
times.
is what is this term that you just used? What?
You've never heard the term honey dicked?
No, no. What is that?
What? Literally, I put in honey, and I was like, let me Google it so I can read out the meaning. Um, it's in the Urban Dictionary. Honey dicking, when a person is getting took, somebody finding your ass out, figuring out what you like, telling you what you want to hear, to get what you want out, to get what they want out of you. Honey dicking refers to when a man does this act. Honey potting refers to when a female does this act.
This is why you tune in to Fightful post shows apparently to learn what these terms mean. Because I have never heard of this before, but appreciate you. This feels like a very Denise bit of like something from Urban Dictionary that she did not know. So look at that, man. Step Post is still alive and well on this post show. But yeah, let's get into some more of this episode of Raw. We got the Gunther promo. which kicked into Finn Balor coming out. What did you think of this segment?
I was very taken aback by it because I've been one to kind of be on the hill. I'll die on it if I will. I think that WWE has been dropping the ball in their presentation of Gunther over the last month or so. Heading into Survivor Series, him kind of changing from this kind of confident dominating heel into kind of a chicken, we're out of the window, chicken shit heel against Priest. I wasn't digging that. I was like, I'm all for making Priest look good before he takes the loss at the pay-per-view, but you're going a little bit too far. He starts a fight and gets beat up backstage, one shot with a lead pipe, and he's down and he's cowering. Then every time he starts a fight in the ring, he gets punked out by Priest. I was like, I'm not feeling this. And then last week when he was presented as the babyface, yet against Dominic Mysterio, one of the most hated heels in the company, Dirty Dom is getting Dirty Dom chants against Gunther. So I'm just like, I don't know, something's not working. Maybe it's just not me. I thought it was just me for a while, but that was kind of telling to me. And then tonight, him cutting this kind of like baby face promo against Balor, I wasn't really feeling that. That's why I did like it more when Priest came out and he attacked Priest as well. So I'm like, okay, you're not. Whew. I was like, whew, you're not fully going babyface. Okay, cool. You're kind of a tweener in this whole ordeal, but I'm just not into the whole Priest and Balor part of this. I feel like they booked that down into the ground. They booked the whole very badly and rushed the whole Terra Twins versus Judgment Day fallout post SummerSlam. And I think that Gunther getting involved in it and involved in the World Heavyweight Championship, by no fault of their own, I know they intended for this to kind of be a top program. It feels like the third or fourth most important thing on the show.
Yeah. You wasn't feeling Gunther in those jeans though? Nah.
I did notice that. I was like, why this man up here looking like Walker Texas Ranger? Like,
no, it looked like he was about to do a presentation for some iPhones. But yeah, Gunther has been in an interesting spot. I won't say that I dislike everything that they've done with him recently. I did like that losing to Cody meant something. I liked that after that he was shaking like, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm used to being this dominant champion. Nobody can get past me. And he took a pretty big loss. And I like that shook him up a little bit. Now, I think the issue with what you're saying is he often doesn't feel like the main character on this show. And as the main champion, he feels like lower down the totem pole than 3 or 4 characters at this point. I feel like there's at least possibly 5, to be honest. Honestly, there's around 5 wrestlers that I would put ahead of him right now in terms of like importance to this show and how over they are. Like, prime example, when CM Punk is not there, his absence is felt on the show. And that kind of leads me to believe that Gunther is probably going to drop that belt to Punk soon.
We are on the same page, dude. I think it's happening on the Netflix premiere. I'm convinced. I think that we either are getting Punk or Seth getting this world title, because after the booking of Gunther heading into Survivor Series, I was like, well, that messed up my plans. Like months ago when Cena announces his retirement, I'm like, oh, Cena and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. He goes for number 17 against a foreign monster heel. That makes sense for Cena's final WrestleMania. But at this point, with the way he's been booked and the way he feels on this show, it feels like you need, for the world title's sake, for it to be involved in whatever Punk, Seth, Drew, whatever these guys are doing at the top of the program.
And I think that goes to our point with Cody, where Cody on Raw, I think that would be a step up, because Cody would have immediately feel like the biggest deal on Raw. And I just don't know sometimes that does Gunther fill that role. But I did think this was a good segment. And I enjoyed him very matter-of-factly telling Finn, like, no, man, like, I used to respect you. I used to look up to you, and now you're doing what? You're cutting corners and you're hanging around with these clowns in this clubhouse. Like, what are you doing? Now, I did think it was a bit hypocritical of him as well, because, sir, you used to have a stable. You cut corners as well. You cheat to win your matches as well. So what do you mean? But I did love that he was basically running this guy down and saying, "Yeah, it has been 8 years since you've been a world champion, and what have you done in between there?" And Finn really didn't have a good answer to that. He kept trying to drop his ad libs in and talk over him, but nah, he was kind of dropping some bombs on Finn Balor. Uh, but then we got this beatdown, which uh, it just felt like it kept escalating to some more stuff happening. Finn Balor and Judgment Day came in, started attacking Gunther. Then Damian Priest came in. Damian Priest, well, sorry, got that in the wrong order. Damian Priest came in and attacked Judgment Day, threw Finn Balor in the ring. Then Gunther, again, as he did at the pay per view, was like, I don't need your help. I don't need anybody's help. And so he then attacks Damian Priest. But then this leads to Balor eventually getting the upper hand, standing tall with both belts.
Yes,
I'm,
and
I'm
yeah,
torn. I'm torn here because I do want to see a singles push for Finn Balor. I do want to see him win a world title. This doesn't feel like we get how we get there. Uh, we got the announcement right after this, of course, that this match is being turned into a triple threat. And you can see the way that this segment was put together. That's where this was going. It had all of the usual wrestling tropes of how you get to a triple threat match. So Saturday night main event, we'll have Finn Balor versus Damian Priest versus Big Gunther for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. They are stacking this show. This feels like a big pay-per-view card. Honestly, this looks like a better card than Survivor Series. It does. Like in terms of like all of the big matches, like the this looks like a great show. Very excited to see how this turns out. Go figure, you can put this together in 2 hours. You don't need to keep trying to give us this 5 match show. You can add more. It's cool. Maybe
over
six. Maybe six matches. Maybe seven.
over 3.5 hours with 5 matches. That's what they usually give us. So we're gonna get probably the best PLE of the year because it's gonna be 2 hours with 5 matches. So I'm looking forward to Saturday night's main event. And like you said, like for all my issues with the opening segment, but it's not really with the opening segment. It's more with the feud and the booking of Gunther. I will say this was an effective segment in setting up the triple threat, where it was logical for Adam Pearce to kind of
Yes.
make that decision because I was thinking they were going to save Priest's return for Saturday night's main event. And then we kick the can down the road, and then it leads to the triple threat. I like them cutting out the middleman and just adding Priest to the matchup because it feels bigger. I don't know if that's a statement to them saying, like, hey, you guys are not going to believe that Finn Balor is a realistic contender to Gunther on Saturday, or it's them trying to kind of further the Priest versus Balor feud because I think that's going to WrestleMania. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
even though I feel like it peaked 2 months ago, I feel like that's going to WrestleMania. So they got to keep them engaged with one another. They'll probably eliminate one another in the Rumble, and they'll probably be the reason why neither one of them walk out with the world title on Saturday.
I definitely agree. I don't want this feud to keep going, but it seems very clear that this triple threat match is a way to keep their feud going, and Gunther's going to move on to another challenger very soon. Um, I, man, Goodfella won 422, bro. That was one of the best lines of this entire thing. Gunther telling Finn Balor he was the best in the world for 24 hours. What a bar.
For one night. Oh man. Yeah, that's why I said this sounded like a babyface promo. Like him saying he's the best in the world and he's got this title and he's gonna hold it for 1,000 more days. I was like, is this Gunther? Or if he added a bruv, he would be Will Ospreay. This is like a Will Ospreay promo.
The other thing that I thought was interesting, and this is something that I've been theorizing for some time, is he makes a point to say you've done nothing to earn a shot at this title, and I've been saying that I think that's what Gunther is going to say to CM Punk. You've done nothing to earn a title match. You beat one guy this year, and then you're in a War Games match. What have you done to earn a shot at this belt? I'm not giving you a shot, and that is when the favor comes into play.
Ooh, that could be interesting. I didn't think of it that way, but that could be interesting that Heyman is kind of the negotiation piece or someone that can go in the room and kind of work their magic to get him the title shot with Gunther. I could see that. If they're going to do a Gunther versus Punk match, I think you're either going to do that at the Netflix premiere or the Royal Rumble. But with what we got on this show, I really believe they're doing Punk and Seth for the first time on Netflix. Because
Yeah,
they're going heavy. Don't you think they're going real heavy into this feud where all the rest of the last year they've kind of like dipped their toes in the water and then ran back out like, oh, it's too cold. Not yet, not yet. Now they're kind of in the water and they're swimming.
yeah. I think there's a very good chance that that may end up being either the Netflix match or a Royal Rumble match. I assumed all this time that this was going to be the WrestleMania match for these two guys. I'm not as certain anymore. My agenda has fully changed to Roman versus Rollins. If Rock is not there, that is the match for Roman. Roman versus Rollins has been on the tee for almost 3 years now. You guys should have get off the pot with this one at this point.
I think they might do Roman and Punk after all the teasing heading
Hmm.
into Survivor Series and what happened at Survivor Series. I think they might go in that direction, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Like I said, having Rock out the picture, it makes it all these options a lot more likely to happen.
Yeah, we will see. We got a super chat from Will Chisholm. He says, "So Roka is so good. She hasn't been back a year from the surgery. Look how Cora Jade and Nikita Mega Lions has looked bad after their surgeries." Uh, yeah, I won't say all of that, but yeah, So Ruka did look great. I think all the stuff we saw her do in this, definitely can see a bright future for her. She's definitely gonna have, um, something coming up, whether it be a North American title run or running in the Royal Rumble. Definitely going to see something big for her in 2025.
Yeah, she has kind of what a lot of the other kind of young talent in the NXT women's division doesn't have. She has an identity and she has a
Yes.
character. Like just having the surfer gimmick, it's like the such a 1980s, 1990s wrestling gimmick, but it works for her. It works. So that's a step up that she has on everybody else.
Yes. Agreed. We got our first big match of the night. Miz and Final Testament took on the Wyatt Six. Um, I was curious because Wyatt Six has been on and off TV so much. Is there still going to be the same great reaction that they were initially getting? And it turns out they got a very good reaction from this crowd. I thought the match itself was a lot of fun. The finish was it was a choice, but I did enjoy this match more than I expected. What did you think?
I think the Wyatt Six has just been really good in the ring. They just been having these fun multi-man matches, and this was another case of it where I was actually also surprised of how over they were with the crowd. Like
Yeah.
even like Uncle Howdy getting a hot tag late in the matchup, that got a big pop. Everything teasing into like the Sister Abigail and stuff, that got a big pop. And then they got heat on Ellering coming back, Paul Ellering being the difference maker for Final Testament getting the win, which surprised me because I think that I have PTSD from the last time Paul Ellering was on the main roster. So when they did the mandible claw on him with Uncle Howdy, I was like, oh, they're writing him off again. Oh, poor Paul. I was like, Paul, you were doing so well on the main roster. I wanted you to keep eating that main roster catering and getting your check. So I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad to see my man Paul Ellering back here. I think that he completes the Final Testament whole gimmick. I wish they would give him more talking time, but Karrion Kross
Yes.
is really good on the mic as well. But I digress. And I was quite surprised they got the win here. I was kind of shocked. I was like, really? Like Uncle Howdy and the White Six losing already? But I think that it was more helpful for Final Testament to get the win because now the feud can continue going. If Wyatt Six won here, the feud kind of ends. It's kind of what they did with the American Made feud, where they just beat them 3 times in a row. It was over after the first time. So at least we have something that we can kind of move forward with.
Yeah, I was surprised that they took the loss here as well, but I do think that WWE has learned from some of their mistakes with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend stuff. Um, a uh, they've picked out immediately like the thing that Bray was very good at is connecting with the audience. Like, yeah, the hokey puppets and the masks and all that stuff is enough to get some people that are into the spooky gimmicks, but behind that, if him getting in front of people and talking, that's what made people believe in Bray Wyatt. And coming straight out the gate with this and allowing Howdy to talk, allowing him to take his mask off and show that this is Bo Dallas behind it, that has helped us a lot. But also here, they're not booking them as this invincible dominant force, because that's what made the Fiend eventually grow stale to some people, is that there's no, when you can't beat them, there is no real story here. And so showing that these guys are more practical and they can be beaten, I think that's the right move. Now, the whole powder finish was kind of not my cup of tea, but I do like where we're going. Coming into this match, like I said, I enjoyed this match way more than I thought, and I think it's because the Wyatt Six does have good workers. Joe Gacy is a much better worker than he gets credit for. I know some of the NXT stuff wasn't for some people, but the guy in ring is better than people think. And Eric Rowan still continues to be very fun to watch in ring, man. He's still out there doing baseball slides, pulling out all this crazy offense. He looked great. I just think they look great together as a team. They work very well, and I can see them eventually entering the tag picture. There's no way that they're not leading to something with New Day, with the whole family element and having them abandoning family. I also think that's why they extended this feud, so that you can give New Day some wind under their belts, possibly put the tag belts on them, and then you can move them on to the New Day feud eventually.
Ooh, that's a good shout. That would be a great like WrestleMania tag team title matchup. Get these tag team titles back on the premium live events. They're doing
Yes.
well, WWE, especially over on SmackDown. I think the SmackDown tag team division has been really good over the last couple of months, anchored by Motor City Machine Guns, DIY, Street Profits. Raw has kind of lax in that, but they got acts like, you know, the Wyatt Six. They've done a great job with leading up to the heel turn last week with the New Day, so they got them ready made. Judgment Day is Judgment Day. You guys can feel how y'all feel. I think that they've kind of booked them down, where they were like they were probably like the number 2 faction in all of WWE in 2023. They feel very much not on that level in 2024, especially after Priest and Ripley.
We can admit it. Judgment Day's peaked, man. Like it at this point, it is what it is. I think it's time to do something different with most of the guys in there, especially Finn Balor. I'm ready for Finn Balor to move on and do something else.
100%. I was happy to hear about him getting a singles push. I'm hoping that happens in 2025. But yeah, it's time to move on from the Judgment Day. 100%. Looking forward to the Wyatt Six, but I love that idea. Wyatt Six, New Day. That needs to probably be their direction for WrestleMania. Get the New Day has to become the next tag team champions, in my opinion. Just put the titles on them, because after the segment tonight, if they're gonna get heat like this, like they got their new hot tag team act right there.
Yeah, and they've got a chance to flip a lot of the dynamics from New Day's original run. Of course, they had the iconic rivalry with the Wyatt family. When they do face the Usos again, with the Usos as big baby faces this time, that's going to be huge. So I think that's a lot of the appeal of them getting these tag belts, is being able to flip some of the dynamics that they initially had. But yeah, I enjoyed this match more than I expected. The whole interference bit at the end, and Miz being so proud of himself that he pulled the ref out and helped prolong the win, and then he starts getting choked out with the mandible claw, only for this big, huge cloud of powder to fly out of nowhere. I don't know what was happening. I thought this was like LeBron James circa 2007, flinging powder in the air, getting you guys to witness, but not my cup of tea, but it was a means to an end.
Hey, it got Kerry across the opening to do his highly ridiculous and difficult finisher. I hate the final pair. I hate it so much. It's a cool name, but oh my god, it's so convoluted for no reason.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that finishing move either. But again, that's why I like this finish. Getting this ridiculously large amount of powder flying into the ring, so much so that Miz is also wiping some of it off of himself. Miz caught strays from this powder, and then you get his finish at the end. I was like, all right.
And then
cool,
the referee's like, am I supposed to act like I don't know what just happened? Like this
there's
is
no way you can't see this powder everywhere, man. There's no way.
Way to go. Way to go. You really helped out, Paul.
Yeah, moving on. We also got Liv Morgan versus Dakota Kai here. Afterwards, well, during the match, really, the PFC came out. Still don't know about that name, PFC. It sounds like kind of a playoff of KFC. I guess it's Pennsylvania Fried Chicken instead of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Um, I don't know, but yeah,
Pennsylvania Fried Chicken.
yeah, we got Dakota in a pretty big match for her, taking on the world champion. I think that shows that they do have high hopes for her. There is going to be a push for her moving into the Intercontinental title tournament. I can very much see her ending up in the finals. She's my pick to win it. At least she who I want to see win it. I'm not sure if that's what I would say my prediction is, but that is who I would like to see win it.
That's a fair one. I think that she has to be considered one of the favorites. I really feel like WWE unintentionally told us who was going to make the finals. I don't know if you remember a few weeks ago on Monday Night Raw, they did like 2 back-to-back vignettes. They did like
Yes.
a vignette, match,
Yes.
vignette. First vignette was Dakota Kai, then they did a match, and then the next vignette was Lyra Valkyria. So then when I saw this bracket, I was like, oh, that's your finals. Okay.
Absolutely.
Dakota versus Lyra, because those are the 2 favorites to win. So I was not surprised with the result of tonight's tournament matchup, because I feel like it's destined for those 2 to kind of be in there, because I don't see anybody from the bottom half of who I think it's going to win, with Raquel probably winning the left side and maybe a Natalya or Kyrie winning on the right side of the bottom half. I don't see either one of them being the first women's Intercontinental Championship, unless you're going to give it to Natalya, who's great, and it's kind of going to feel like a lifetime achievement. Plus, you can have the Brett Natalya comparison, being Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, I think Natalya should win that belt before she retires. It just makes too much
Yes.
sense with the Hart family's history with that belt. What she could personally do with open challenges as well. I think she could have great TV matches with that belt. But I don't see them going with her as the first champion, especially like right now. Since this return, they haven't really done much with her. She feels kind of cold right now. So I don't see them putting the belt on her straight away. But somewhere down the line, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. It's between Dakota and Lyra. And giving Dakota this match where she just could not overcome the odds of the numbers game that was supposed to get the crowd to have some sympathy for her, so that when she goes back into the tournament, they're behind her getting to the finals.
Yeah, and it sets up a very interesting semifinals matchup if Raquel does come out of that other triple threat, because of their history together. Not only that, Liv beating her here, but I like the fact that they gave her so much offense. It was kind of like booked in like a 50-50 type of way, where she got a bunch of offense early on. She took some heat. Then she made a big comeback, looked like she was on the verge of victory right before Liv was able to pull out the victory. And even though, Pure Fusion Collective did get involved, did cause a distraction, this is relatively the cleanest victory for Liv Morgan of
It
her
is.
title reign. I'm sorry, we've gotten into a very Jeff Jarrett TNA 2003 formula with Liv Morgan, where I always knew ref bump, guitar shot, 1, 2, 3, and with Liv, it's Dominic throws in the weapon, distraction, Liv
Yes.
cheats, Oblivion, 1, 2, 3. That's the formula that's been the last 6 months of Liv Morgan's title reign. So I felt like this was the cleanest win that she has, and overall a solid match.
Yeah, that just makes me think Liv coming out to down, 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 down. Come on, man. You change your theme song, man.
You have Dom, you have Dom come out with her and Raquel as Kat and Deborah. Come on,
Come on, change the
come
theme song, bro.
on.
WWE, if you're listening, dust off that theme and give it to Liv Morgan.
Don't piss me off.
um, yeah, this was a serviceable match. I liked it for what it was. I do think it's going to get people more invested in Dakota moving forward. But the real story coming out of this, with EO coming out afterwards to save Dakota Kai from PFC beating her down, and that plays into some stuff later, because Liv hits EO with the Oblivion and stands over her with the belt, of course, to tease their match coming up at Saturday Night Main Event. I wish that they hadn't immediately moved back into this stuff with Rhea and Liv because it immediately tells me that EO is losing at this show, and they're like, I wish we had gotten back to the Rhea and Liv stuff after they had their match at Saturday Night Main Event.
Yeah, and especially on this show, you don't know how
Yeah,
excited I got when Liv hit that Oblivion and stood tall. I was like, so there's a chance. There's a chance EO might get because I always go, me, Phil, y'all, a bunch of y'all watching, y'all watch wrestling long enough. Y'all know whoever goes over on the go home show is usually gonna lose at the big show, ahead of the big title match. So when Liv standing tall, I'm like, there's a chance. There's a chance EO
you
can do
you
this.
know damn well there was no chance.
And then they're gonna they once again honey dicking. That's the theme of this damn episode. Honey dicking us with EO and Riel at the end, grabbing the title or honey potted because they're women, honey potting us, holding the title at the end. I'm just like, yeah, I know that ain't happening. I know Liv's winning now.
Yeah, yeah. Liv is definitely winning this match at Saturday Night Main Event. What are you gonna do? We uh we got a bit more to get into, but before we move on to our next few topics, I'm gonna hit you guys for a word from our sponsors. Because we have multiple sponsors on this show. Hopefully, you guys appreciate them.
You've heard me talk about a lot of things that nordvpn.com/Fightful has, and I'm about to tell you almost everything it has. Listen to your favorites abroad. If you're traveling and you want to listen to your favorite shows, they got you covered. Fastest VPN in the world. You can shield your data from snoops and criminals. So that way your IP address is changed. You can safely listen to podcasts, stream shows, simply browse in complete privacy. You can protect yourself on that public Wi-Fi no matter where it is. You can secure every device you own on every operating system you own. They also have the ability to get a NordPass password manager. Maybe it's a little more difficult for you to remember those passwords. They got you covered. They also got the file encryption tool. That way there's an extra layer of security between you and your content. Threat protection, you're safe from disruptions with their kill switch, 24/7 tech support, fastest VPN on the planet, reliable encryption, a 30-day money-back guarantee. You will end up saving money when you subscribe to nordvpn.com/Fightful.
We just got some breaking news, according to Luis. Uh,
Uh-huh.
we've got a match announced for next week. Brian Breaker will be taking on Ludwig Kaiser for the IC title. Very excited for that. One of my favorite matches coming out of the pay-per-view was the triple threat match for the IC title, and I thought that Ludwig Kaiser stole the show in that match. So I do think this is going to be a fun match.
Yeah, Kaiser is a guy that has really impressed and had kind of a breakout year where we've got to see him more as a single star, and he's really shined in any kind of opportunity that he's gotten. And he did that at the pay-per-view, arguably the match of the night with that triple threat, and he just fits with this kind of like kind of like a not too akin, but very much a WWE version of the never open weight division over on Monday Night Raw with the Intercontinental division. You know it's going to be hard hitting. You know it's going to be a full on high impact matchup. So I like the Raw mid card division a lot.
Yeah. We got a CM Punk backstage interview. Um, Sometimes the Punk stuff where he's talking doesn't hit well because it very much feels like unnatural. It feels like some of the stuff he's saying isn't like what the Punk we're used to. And I think sometimes it comes off a bit too safe. Because the thing about Punk that we want him to do is we want the chaos. We want to not know what this guy's gonna say. We want to not be able to predict him. But the thing that I did love about this is this guy was talking hella greasy about Seth Rollins. Starting this by saying, "Hey, yeah, this guy has always been the same guy. This guy that I met 16 years old asked me to train him for free, by the way." Which, and he goes into all this stuff of, yeah, I know that he did a pretty good job when I was away, but at one point, this guy was on the chopping block. I shielded him from that. Very nice play on words, sir. But by far the line of this entire thing, he gets it in and he says, "No, no, no. The starter's back. Second stringer can go back to the bench now." Ice cold bar. There's a
It
few
is.
few caps in this rap throughout this promo, but that stinger at the end, what a bar.
I was like, oh, this is the Punk we needed. This is the Punk we needed. Because I wasn't too enthused with their back and forth to start last week's show. I was like, I kind of feel like y'all have said everything y'all could say to each other before like actually scrapping. I wanted y'all to just scrap off GP last week. But I like kind of separating them this week, giving them the opportunity to kind of tell their side of the story, because that's one thing they haven't done with any of the promo work they've done on each other, where tell their side of the story of where everything went wrong, where it all fell apart with them. So I like Punk kind of saying, you know, I met him when he was 16 and he was entitled then. He's still entitled now. And he accomplished so much when I was gone, but the start is back. Second Street got to go back to the bench. And I'm sorry, a lot of truth was said in jest, and I did feel a lot of the truth in this promo was in that one line, because it does feel like that. And I've grown a sympathy to your boy Seth Rollins, Phil. I've grown a sympathy because I was shooting in the Seth Rollins gym when he was Tyler Black. When he became a star in Ring of Honor against Nigel McGuinness at Take No Prisoners, 2007, I was like, that young man's going to be a star. He's going to be in WWE. He's going to be a WWE champion, a WrestleMania main eventer. And all my boys with 1920 going to Ring of Honor at Hammerstein, they laughed at me. They was like, Tyler Black, he ain't going to do nothing. I was like, watch. This boy, he's got talent. So I've been shooting in the Seth Rollins gym for a while, but I've grown some sympathy over the last 2 years, because he's had a solid number 2 spot in this company. Sometimes number 1 was filled by John Cena. Sometimes number 1 was filled by Roman Reigns. Hell, sometimes he'd have to go home and see number 1 sleeping in his bed. Becky Lynch was number 1 at some point. Like, I'm just saying, Seth has a firm number 2 spot in WWE. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I think that Seth is one of the greatest number 2s of all time. I think there's probably only The Rock you could say is probably a greater number 2 in WWE history than Seth Rollins. But his number 2 spot he hasn't had for 2 years, because Cody came in 2022 and kind of skipped him over. For better or worse, we got to admit it. That's what happened. Cody skipped him over, took his spot in the line. Then CM Punk gonna come in Survivor Series 2003, and it kind of feels like he took the number 3 spot. So Seth is 4. I went from being number 2 for the better part of a decade, winning every single title, being a top guy, being the workhorse of the damn company, and this guy who badmouthed him for a decade gets to talk trash and take my spot. So I've grown some sympathy for Seth Rollins, but it is what it is, and that's why I said there's a lot of truth in that one line. Second String got to go to the bench, because over the last year, it's felt like Punk is viewed bigger than Seth by WWE.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I think
saying that's how I feel, Phil. I'm just telling you what my eyes are seeing.
all right. Um, but I just think even what you're saying is to our point earlier about Gunther, how the story that people want, the feud that feels like the biggest feud on this brand, the 2 guys that are vying for that number 1 spot are Seth Rollins and CM Punk. And there is a point to what Punk said of, yeah, when you're away, yeah, this was Monday Night Rollins 2018. You were the guy. You carried this show on your back with that IC title reign. Even after that, once the visionary character finally got off the ground, easily the best heel on this show, possibly the best heel in the company, and he was killing it. Raw was in a lot of ways his show. As World Heavyweight Champion, Raw was his show. Punk came back. A lot of ways, this feels like his show. When they could offer him a contract again, immediately brought this guy to Raw. He feels like a main character. This stuff with Drew, once it got past the bracelet stuff, became the top feud of the year on this brand. A lot of people have eyes on what does this mean for CM Punk heading for 2025. Like we said, there's a very good chance that CM Punk could be World Heavyweight Champion sometime in 2025. That's the belt that you established Now that this guy's back, you're just gonna let this guy take your spot. You're gonna step back and take a step back. You're gonna let this guy take your main event again.
Mm. It's interesting. I like the kind of the genesis of this feud where you can kind of choose your side. They haven't really tried to kind of turn either guy. Either guy kind of plays that line of the fence very well, where you can kind of see why some people will choose Seth over Punk, and you can see why some people will choose Punk over Seth. I like how they broke that down with the 2 interviews that we got on the show.
Yeah. Rollins got a chance to give his side later in the show, but I did think this was another good showing from Punk. I loved him last week saying like, I don't think about you. You've been spending six months thinking about me. I don't think about you. You don't have anything I want anymore. You're not champion anymore. I'm not worried about you. I'm moving forward. I'm done running races with people I don't know I'm in a race with. He'll always give us at least one bar out of there where it's like,
Always.
he still got it.
Always. He's got to get his one line in, and very much like that whole dynamic from last week felt like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker heading into WrestleMania 26, where Undertaker was like, "I already beat you. I'm good. I don't want to face you. I'm the world heavyweight champion. Focus on that. I don't really need you." And Seth is playing the role of Shawn Michaels here because he wants that match now. He's taking care of all the other distractions that he had, and now he wants to deal with Punk.
Yes. This is starting to feel like when Punk came back and did backstage and Rollins started tweeting him and Punk's like, listen, I'm not a wrestler anymore. Why are you worried about me? I'm not going to give you a match. Why don't you stop tweeting poorly and worry about yourself? Like, leave me alone. Leave me out of this. Make sure to send in your super chats, guys. That is the best way to get your chat read on the air. Like Will Chisholm, he says, at least HBK won't honeysuckle us with Julia versus Stephanie if I care. We know we getting that in April. LOL. What? This is your fault for bringing this into our chat and bringing this into. We're never going to be asked to host again.
Just have a whole bunch of honeysuckles and honey dicked and honey pot in the chat. That needs to be the theme on the Fightful Raw post show now. You need to send it to Ibu and Sean next week. Tell them how WWE has been honeysuckling you.
They're going to come back next week very much confused with like all of these honey dick jokes in the chat. They're going to be like, what are you guys talking about? We got another vignette. We got the Drew McIntyre vignette, which I was very curious to see what was Drew's reason. I mean, I'm sure we can guess, but I loved that, like with Rollins, this Roman stuff from Survivor Series has been making everybody that has been terrorized by this guy angry. Like you saw with Kevin Owens, we saw it with Seth Rollins, and now we're seeing it with Drew McIntyre. Like, this is it. That guy snaps your fingers and you come running now? Like, this is what it is. And then he says, that's why I took out Jey Uso, and that's why I took out Sami Zayn. I thought his reasoning made perfect sense. Continued from his time earlier in this year as a heel, where he's a heel that's saying a lot of things that are very relatable.
Yeah, this was 100% a tremendous reasoning for his attacks last week, where he's just like, at least Punk took a bribe. You guys sold out for absolutely nothing. Like, I was like, yo, Drew McIntyre always feels he is justified. His justification for anything he does and his pettiness to get consequences for people that wrong him in any which way is the defining traits of his character. And I love him kind of saying after the punk Hell in a Cell, I kind of thought about changing. Maybe I was wrong. And then he says, but no, I go up and I see you and Sammy and Jay and Jimmy with Roman putting your little fingers in the air.
Putting your stupid little fingers in the air.
He said that's the reason why I had to come back and attack these guys. I love Drew McIntyre. This was my favorite promo of the night because it was like, 1.5 minutes, like 90 seconds long, and it accomplished everything. It gave you the reasoning for the attacks last week, which he didn't even need to do, because literally when you see Drew attack Sammy and you know he's the one that attacked Jay, you're like, oh,
of course.
The OG bloodline team back up with Roman and team with Punk. Yeah, of course Drew attacked them. Yeah, that makes sense. And just him explaining it made it even better. So Drew McIntyre, I feel like he's going to be the most important and crucial character that they're going to have to find a more prominent place for heading into WrestleMania that is not obvious to us. I think everybody else is kind of obvious. Seth has Roman or Punk. Punk has Roman or Seth. Roman has 146 different top matches that he could do at WrestleMania. Cody has Roman, and he has Orton, and he has Owens. And Drew McIntyre, I don't think he has one that's kind of obvious like everybody else is, but I think he's going to be the most crucial one that they have to figure out a top matchup for heading into WrestleMania, because he honestly, outside of Cody, he's had the best year of anybody else in WWE.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I think you're right. This was the best out of all the promos we got, because it was very concise. It was very quick and to the point. And hard to disagree with everything he said. He was right. I love also at the beginning when he talks about how he couldn't complete the match because of massive blood loss. And he was like, I thought about coming back next week anyway, even though I wasn't well enough to come back. Thought about maybe changing my ways. But no, I wasn't wrong. They're all still wrong. You all are still wrong. I'm not the hypocrite here. You guys are still the problem in this company. I love that.
His conviction is awesome. He's just so awesome as a character.
Yeah, I thought this was very, very good. And we saw Drew again later in the night. In the lead up to WrestleMania, if they're not doing some kind of multi-man matches with this, I don't know what we're doing. They should be doing some variation of these three guys together against these three guys, or these four guys against these. I mean, Drew and Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins against Roman, Cody, and Punk makes all the sense in the world. That 6-man is right there. If you want to do that at the next Saturday night main event, that's a big colossal match you can use. All of these guys have, I mean, because if you just look at Drew, for example, after their match at WrestleMania, I could see him and Rollins having a mutual respect for each other. Also, Kevin Owens is just looking around like, oh, you don't like those guys? I don't like any of those guys on that team over there. Punk, Cody, Roman, I hate those guys. So sure, teaming up with you to beat those guys up, I'm in.
And those are all guys Seth hates as well. So, like, this works for everybody involved. Everybody involved hates those baby faces and think that they're hypocrites for the most part. So, yeah, pairing these guys up should be something that they do for, like, a Saturday night's main event. Or even a big episode of Raw. I think a lot of these, like, first couple of episodes of Monday Night Raw in January, they're going to treat as, like, big major shows, because they're going to have, like, possibly like 10 million more viewers than they have right now on USA Network, going to a place like Netflix. So I'm very interested to see how they book out that first month over on the streaming service.
Agreed. Got some more super chats here. We got one from Will Chisholm. He says, so KO, Seth, and Drew going to start a faction called F the Bloodline. Yeah, they should just go and get those old WWE shirts, but to get the F out of here. And just like start their own group of He-Man bloodline hating crew.
Imagine them in their treehouse, like inducting people into we hate the bloodline and CM Punk. That's the only thing you need to do to get into the club.
Big CM Punk picture on the outside with an X over it. Like, no Phils allowed in here.
No Phils, no Joes, no Jays, no Jimmys.
Yeah.
I like it.
But yeah, we got the Seth Rollins segment afterwards. Seth Rollins in whatever this outfit was. I don't know what the sleeves of this. It looked like he skinned a character from Fraggle Rock. I don't know what this was, but it looked awful. But I love that he came straight out and goes, That CM Punk guy. Go ahead, chant his name. Get it out. Get it out your system. This guy is the king of spin. He should be a politician afterwards. I love that bit because he'll give you a little bit of the truth, but he'll always spin it. That's what he's done his entire life. And no, this guy, I'll tell you what the fact is. This guy has left this place, and I did respect him. I did look up to him. But then he left this place and he spent that time doing nothing but trashing this place, trashing people that worked here. I tried to reach out to him and he didn't reach out. He didn't talk to any of us that still worked here because how dare we stay at his dream job, which this is all factual. That was part of the reason that Corey Graves and him fell out. These are all real things that happened. So I think the greatest thing that came out of that from Seth Rollins' side is that he was speaking all facts. It doesn't matter if you want to get on here and say I'm a bigger star than you or whatever else. He started spitting all facts. He said, you went away and then you trashed this place for all these years. Then you come back here and we're just supposed to forget all of that happened. Now you're saying this is your home and all this other stuff. No, 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 no. This is my home. You don't belong here. And not just that, you come here, you act like I was nothing while you're away. I've main evented WrestleMania. You still haven't. Technically, he's main evented WrestleMania twice.
Yeah.
You can say what you want. I've been a 2-time Money in the Bank winner. If you ask most people, what is the greatest Money in the Bank cash in of all time? Seth Rollins cash in at WrestleMania is high on that list. You can say what you want about, I'm a bench warmer, I'm this or I'm that, but you're only here because you failed at everything else after you left here. You burned every bridge. You had no choice but to be back here. And I was like, dang, he kind of firing on my guy, man.
That was the realest line of the night. I was like, damn, okay. All right, Seth.
Yeah, all facts. No cap in his raps here. And then Sammy came out and interrupted him. I was like, but wait, he's not wrong. Again, like Drew, he's not wrong. Everything he's saying is factual here.
But I like Sammy's addition this week, and I thought that the Seth portion of this was good, especially like what he was saying towards the end of the promo before Sammy came out when he was starting to get really real with stuff. I think that it got a couple of people in the crowd uncomfortable because they was like, no, we don't care if he's here for the money. See ya, Punk.
And he was just like, yeah, get it out. He's like, I used to love this guy too until I realized he's a fraud. And I was like, oh my God.
I was like, oh, okay, all right. He got it, so he went for it. But I like Sammy coming out because it was kind of different from last week where they were really aggressive with each other. But we saw a little bit of that when he's like, you were sounding like Drew McIntyre last week. And Seth was like, don't you talk about my mama. He gave him the finger like, don't you talk about
I am not Drew McIntyre. Listen,
I am not Drew McIntyre.
We both have long hair. We both have beards, but I am not Drew McIntyre. I dress better than he does.
We both hate the bloodline and we both hate CM Punk. I am not Drew McIntyre. But yeah, that's what he was sounding like. I do agree with Sammy here. So I thought Sammy made a good point. I like Seth kind of questioning Sammy, even though Sammy did apologize and then Seth still questioned him. He was like, he just said sorry for that. Why are you bringing it up again? He's like, nah, it kind of hurts me that you thought that I would be the person after, knowing each other, as long as we did. And I think that the promo last week was so good. That's why they did this. And maybe because of that promo being so good last week, we're going to see further kind of this Sami Zayn, Seth Rollins kind of relationship in the weeks to come heading into the new year.
Yeah, I think the thing that's great about both Roman and Seth Rollins as characters is that everything that Seth Rollins did as a heel, as a visionary, it's like, this is for the greater good of this company. And even when he turned babyface and as champion, he's like, I'm doing this because this brand needs a world champion. That guy took all the opportunities away from this brand. Excuse me. He took all the opportunities away from this brand. I'm bringing that back here. It's what this company needs. Just like his reasonings of getting behind Cody going into WrestleMania. It's like, no, I need to step up for these guys because they're overstepping. They're overusing their power. I'm doing what's best. And he's still saying the same thing. Like, no, you guys don't see it. You want to cheer for this guy, but he is a problem. He doesn't belong here. And when he gets what he wants, he's just going to turn into the same CM Punk that we all know. And it's the same thing what he's saying with all the bloodline stuff. Like, what are you doing siding with this guy? He hasn't changed. Roman hasn't changed. What did he give you, a T-shirt? Now you're cool with rocking these OG Bloodline T-shirts again? And that's to Drew's point of, you got nothing. At least CM Punk's getting a favor out of this. What, you get some T-shirts?
He ain't even apologized. Sammy said, I'm only going to join if you apologize to Jay. He never apologized to Jay, and Sammy just joined the Bloodline. So I love the fact that you got Seth now. You got Drew now, bringing up the fact that they reunited the OG Bloodline without ever addressing. It's like a relationship when they get back together, but one person cheated on the other and y'all never have a conversation about it or something. Like, it's weird. It's weird. That's going to come up one day or another. So I like the fact that we already have people coming out and kind of saying it, being the person on the shoulder, being like, yo, he hasn't changed. Like, he's still the same Roman Reigns that manipulated, mistreated you, and you just rejoined with him. You're helping him out now. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I was just waiting for him to drop the biggest bomb of this whole thing. When he was getting attacked on SmackDown by those Bloodline guys, you all ran and helped. When you guys got attacked last week, where was he?
True story. Where was Roman then? Roman was nowhere to be found on either show.
No. So I very much love what they're building up here. I love that they're keeping the continuity going. I love that it's not just the babyface going, oh, all of this is fine. They're all looking like, no. And Rollins very much feels like Frank Grimes and all of this. Like, no, this doesn't make any sense. You can't just go and team with that guy after everything he's done. He's the bad guy here. I'm not wrong. I'm not the bad guy here. He is.
I love that Homer Simpson is Roman Reigns in this scenario. That's great. That's a great analogy.
We got some more super chats to get into. Got one from Margie Love. She says, so glad we have this Drew now. Just think where he was a couple years ago, floating with no strong character definition. Yeah, we all would like to forget that pairing with Shane McMahon and some of the other stuff he was doing. Let's just completely move on from that and just we don't have to talk about that at all.
Yeah, I've loved Drew McIntyre the last year and a half, and this is what I wanted from over on AEW, like the Death Rider storyline. Everything that's important in WWE right now stems from one storyline. Yes. The Bloodline. Everything has a fallout. Every decision that happens in the Bloodline story has ramifications for other stories. Like, the Bloodline story has been kind of on SmackDown, but it has ramifications on what's going on Monday Night Raw. We got Seth and Punk back at it with one another because of Punk taking Seth's spot in the men's war games and all their past issues. Now you have Sami Zayn setting up a big matchup on Saturday night's main event against Drew McIntyre because Sami decided to reunite with Roman. You have Kevin Owens in that car interview on SmackDown saying, I'm going to remember Sami. I'll deal with that later. So you got him turning heel because of Cody teaming with Roman. Like, everything is centered on the Bloodline storyline, and that's why it's going to have this legacy as one of the greatest wrestling storylines of all time.
Yeah, agreed. I think that is one of the benefits of this at the moment, that that feels like the main storyline, but you've built so many great angles out of it that are also very interesting. But yeah, Kevin Owens in that car, the little golden boy, Cody Rhodes. We all got to show up to work now because we can't let down the little golden boy.
It's like he wanted all his pyro during his entrance. Pew 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 pew.
I love Kevin Owens, man. One of the greatest characters in wrestling at the moment. We got the IC title tournament match right after this. Lyra Valkyria, sorry, pronounced that correctly, phonetically, took on Zelina Vega and Ivy Niles. Ivy Niles, with her new gear, like, bro, again, makes all the sense in the world over there. Women's United States champion. I just think that's the move, to move American Made to SmackDown. It just makes too much sense. But this was a solid match. I think we going into it, knew Lyra was going to pick up the win. Still very surprised every time Lyra gets that woo chant going. People are into it. Lyra has been a really good addition to Raw's women's division this year, especially when she first came up, got the co-sign for Becky, had some strong matches this year, had a strong showing in the Queen of the Ring tournament, was also strong in the women's Money in the Bank. But then they had that little lull period where she was mixed up with PFC, and I'm glad that they're moving back into getting her off on her own and pushing her at the at the trajectory she was at before as a singles wrestler. So I have to believe she is somebody that is a favorite to win this thing. I'm of course very glad she picked up the win here. And hopefully, they've got plans for her next year. It seems like they do. They did the vignettes for her. They put her back on NXT at that one point, and she came back as like a returning star. So hopefully she's got a bright future ahead.
Yeah, I would hope so. Lyra Valkyria, I think she's very talented in the ring. She's one of the better in-ring performers on the Monday Night Raw
Agreed.
women's division for sure. So I'm glad this Intercontinental title tournament came when it did, because I think that she's one of like the members of the Raw roster that needed this the most. Because like you said, she had a strong start getting called up. The Queen of the Ring tournament, the finish with Nile back at Queen of the Ring is still one of the best finishes of the year. Bunch of great matches with Io Sky, but once she fell into that pure fusion collective vortex where it had her, Zelina Vega, Natalya for like 3 months that felt like 8. And it just felt like she was lost in the shuffle for a bit. So getting this new mid-card title kind of gives her another opportunity here. And I think that they have to figure out a way, either through vignettes, through video packages, through promos, to kind of develop more of a distinct character for her. Because I get a lot of people that just tell me, oh, you're talking about the Bird Lady? And they don't even know her name. It's like, we got to get her kind of a defined character outside of Bird Lady, basically.
Yeah, and the pose thing she does or whatever. Yeah.
Like she's Maximum Male Model. MXM collection.
But yeah, this was a fun match. Kind of predictable, but in a good way. I had no problem with this finish.
I like the fact that they put in these three who are like three outside of like Katana Chance. I think these are like the 3 shortest women on the WWE roster. So it was interesting. It was interesting they had all 3 of them in this matchup here. A lot of clunky stuff in this matchup. I thought it was fine overall. And yeah, the Lyra was definitely the best choice out of the bunch, even though I wouldn't have mind Ivy now. Moving on, because I think they got a lot of potential in her that they haven't even tapped into.
I agree. I would like to see Ivy have more matches regularly, because I do think there's potential there, and we just haven't got the chance to scratch the surface yet.
Exactly. And Zelina's great as always. She just needs, I agree with Goodfellas in the chat, she just needs more reps.
Yes. We are going to get into red hot New Day segment after this, and then our main event. But before we do that, I'm going to hit you with a word from BetOnline.
Hey guys, I'm here to tell you about betonline.ag, the official betting partner of Fightful. It's not just an online platform. They've been trusted for over 25 years. They boast a focus on the player approach and have built their reputation on offering their clients nothing but the best. From cutting-edge technology to enticing promotions and the latest sports betting odds. Whether it be wrestling, MMA, boxing, or football, baseball, basketball, or racing, anything you can think of. All major sporting events are covered by betonline.ag. Fast payouts, highest credit card acceptance industry-wide, safe and secure online environments, and their live betting feature allows you to bet on your favorites weekly and easily and in real time. betonline.ag. That's where we're going at Fightful. That's where we suggest you go as well. That's where we get all of our odds at. betonline.ag. Only bet what you can, and please bet responsibly.
Only bet what you can. Please bet responsibly, of course, guys. But betonline.ag is the best place to go for your sports betting needs. The New Day segment, man, like you said, all of the reactions to the New Day were a lot of fun throughout. when they walked in and they were trying to say hello to people like they usually did, and everybody's like, these guys, like, I mean, when Otis looked down on them, I was like, dang, man, I'm sure they were looking around like, Otis, like, who are you to look down on us? Like, I love how they looked at him like, Otis, like all of these guys, like, how dare these people? And so you also got them walking past Adam Pearce locker office. I almost called it a locker room. He's not a wrestler. Office. And Cody's coming out, and that's when Cody hit him with the "You should be ashamed of yourselves."
He
And
hit Xavier with, I've known you since we were kids. You should be ashamed of yourself. He did it in a monotone, very serious Cody voice. He wanted to add in the little cry at the end, but he decided to refrain. That's the only thing he could say.
Yeah, and I loved Wood's line back of that guy in high school. Like, he was a great guy in high school. Which is such a nerd thing to say. I love that Woods is still very much himself. That was great. But then we get them commandeering a camera number 6 to be specific. And then they go out to the crowd, and you could hear before they even started going out there, the boos started getting louder. By the time they got out there, they were getting booed, man. Like, not even like a little bit, they were getting booed. And when they got in the ring, the more they talked, the louder those boos got. This was some of the most legitimate heat I've seen any heel hit, and I don't know how long. But Dom gets great heat as well. But this was fantastic. It just shows that segment last week worked very well for them. I thought it was a brilliant move to use the player tribune thing to get people excited for a potential Big E return, tug at some heartstrings. And so when he did come out, people were excited to see him. And then they took one of the most beloved guys and they kicked him out of the group. And so this crowd let them have it. They got the big "We Want Big E" chant, big "New Day Sucks" chant, very loud boos. They couldn't even finish what they wanted to say. They ended up having to get out of the ring. This was very, very good. Very excited to see them as heels moving forward. I think that Kofi is, of course, a generational babyface, but this guy is a trash talker. This guy, when you give him a chance to be obnoxious, he's going to be very fun to watch. And Woods has felt like he's been waiting for a while. Like, look, this was fun throwing pancakes and playing, trombone and all this. But look, I've been waiting to get back to this heel stuff.
He's like, we got way too over, way too fast back in 2015. Now I'm gonna enjoy getting all this heat that we quickly got rid of when they turned heel back in 2015. And this heat, I think, was better than even the Dominic Mysterio heat, because this felt like money generating type heat. Because not only are they booing them out the building, not allowing them to speak, but like you said, they're chanting, "We want Big E." Like, this is really setting up for Big E to get one of the biggest generational pops ever when he makes a return, and it's not in a suit, it's in his gear, and he's ready to get back into the ring. That's going to be a moment everybody remembers. It could come as soon as the Royal Rumble. You can have Woods and Kofi in the ring, and Big E comes out eliminating them. That would get a big generational pop as well. But like, just how they reacted to the reaction, I think what made this segment fantastic. Like, at one point, Kofi looks at the crowd like, the audacity. We ain't even do it. And I love Xavier kept saying, we ain't even do anything. We did not even do anything. Like, he is so egregious. Like, he is so offended by the boos, by the reaction that they got here. And it's just so great how the crowd heat just got louder and louder and louder and louder. And I love, like, Woods, even the way he was just trying to say his promo was just playing into it. Like, he would say something and he would expect the reaction, so he would stop and they would just get louder and louder and louder. So I thought that these guys played this segment up to perfection. As far as like heated segments go, I think this is way past the Dominic Mysterio levels. This is like Roman Reigns after WrestleMania 33 levels. This one segment, like how much heat they got and how they reacted to it, made this all just a great segment overall.
I thought it was just me because that was my immediate comparison with the Roman segment as well. It felt very similar to that Roman segment. Um, okay, that's my fan. If people are wondering, on my laptop making this noise, it sounds like
Okay.
there's a kazoo in the background. If you're watching Grapsody, it started making the same noise. It is now making it again. But whatever. I digress. I digress. This was very similar to a Roman segment, and I thought it was just me at first. But man, great heat for these guys. It just shows that there's legs in this heel turn. I'm not sure if I believe this is immediately leading to a Biggie return to the ring, but the fact that this got people to stand behind Big E and against them, that shows this was the intended result of that segment. And like you said, it's a little bit different from the Dom stuff because Dom was getting heat, but this stuff, it shows like everything that they did to lead up to that 10-year anniversary segment, it paid off in dividends.
Yeah, because it's so great because they turned our expectations on its head so well. Like we're expecting, oh, Xavier's gonna turn on Kofi, or we're expecting Big E's gonna come back and they're gonna reunite. I don't think I heard anyone coming out and predicting that the New Day were going to turn on Big E. And that's what makes the emotion of this so strong and heated, is that not only is it heartbreaking because you're taking something away that the fans love and adore, is that we didn't see it coming. That's the bigger shock. That's the bigger shot, is that we did not see this coming at all. And it's very rare, especially in the way Triple H books things, that we get something that we didn't expect this much.
Yeah, I love that they also, Kofi at one point goes, we could have cracked him across his back with a chair. We didn't do anything to him. We let him leave. We didn't do nothing. Loved it, man. I loved how they were almost like disgusted. Like, how dare you guys boo us? We didn't do anything wrong.
But I love it because it's so similar to when they first turned heel in 2015. Back then, they were kind of egregious to the fact that the fans booed them when they were supposed to be these positive, church-going baby faces. And that's how they turned heel, is because they started turning that heat that the fans were giving them as babyface back on them as these kind of very quick-witted heels. And now they're getting even more heat than they got back when they were the white meat baby faces back in 2015. And they are just so egregious to it. Like, they're disgusted by it. They're shocked. They're just like the audacity of us fans to not appreciate everything they've done for the past 10 years.
Yeah. I really love this segment. Like, I was very curious to see how they would follow up that segment from last week. This was great. Love when wrestling does what it's supposed to do. It gets the intended reaction. And I mean, I don't think I'm often saying this is the loudest that crowd got all night. They were booing these guys out of the building, man.
And this is late in the show. It's not like this is like the first hour. This is like the second to last segment. It's getting this much heat. That's what made it all the more like, wow, this New Day segment worked even more than I think WWE intended it to.
Yeah, I hope they understand they've got something with this. They gotta run with this. Like we said earlier, I think it's a shame that we haven't seen the tag titles on the PLEs this year. I believe the last time we saw them defend it was the ladder match at WrestleMania, right? Other than that, the tag titles have not been on in the PLE. So I think with this,
two sets have not been on one PLE.
Yeah. So I think with this, you've got something. Put the belts on these guys. Give these guys a run. Get the big tag matches back on pay-per-views, man. I hope that that's where this is leading. We got one more match to get into. The ladies' main event at this show. I believe we have a super chat before I get that out of the way. Let's see. We got a super chat from Valop. He says, oh, damn, it's True Heel Grapsody today. New Day getting that real Dom heat. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Vala B. You know, one of the OGs. 44 months as a member. You've been giving Fightful some bread. I appreciate that.
Giving up the bread. Appreciate you, bro. But yeah, Raw, the main event of this show, anything goes match. Rhea Ripley taking on. They reminded us at several points her beloved friend Raquel Rodriguez. They had to nail that in as many times. Look, these guys are friends. But this, I was wondering how much we were going to get out of this match because they did Rhea's entrance right before the commercial break, and then we came back and we were still doing the entrances, and I was like, okay, we got 10 minutes left in the show. But I thought this was a very fun sprint. When they started Raquel's entrance, I thought, are we going to have to sit through this whole entrance and then try to get maybe like a 7-8 minute match out of this? No, actually, Rhea ran her down, got to the top of the ramp, started beating her up, and that crowd reacted big once she started doing that. Once they started fighting out to the crowd, that crowd picked up because at first I was like, I don't know, guys, this late into this show doing this kind of a short match, but I thought the crowd was great throughout this match. They reacted to all of the stuff they were supposed to. Reacted really well for them in the crowd. Reacted big for that table. Wrestling fans at the table, man, they love nothing more than to seeing the table came out. They popped huge for the table, and I thought all of this stuff here that worked. Again, it was a fun little sprint. What did you think?
Yeah, I like the fact that they started the match the way they did. They needed to kind of get the energy back up after they could have easily killed the crowd with that New Day segment because of how loud they were and like getting all their energy out on Kofi and Xavier that they could have been dead for this main event. So they smartly started it kind of with a sense of urgency. Really like the start of the matchup. Rhea Ripley, man, I don't think there's a bigger like badass babyface in wrestling
Yes.
than Rhea Ripley. And just a wrestler that exudes coolness as much as Rhea Ripley. That's what makes her such a special performer. So glad to see her back on Monday Night Raw. Her first Monday Night Raw match since January 1st.
Wow.
Way too long. Way too long.
Way too long.
We needed more Rhea Ripley wrestling on Monday nights because she just brings a different energy where we could see the women in a prominent position like this in the main event. I thought the use of the weapons was well done. I thought the match slowed down a bit after the commercial break, but then it picked up towards the end of the matchup, especially when Liv and Io come out kind of to do their little interaction. I like Rhea getting the win with the riptide through the table, kind of vanquishing the heater for Liv. And the only thing now in her way is Io getting the shot first, even though Rhea said, I'm going to let you get your shot first at Survivor Series, but we still had that little tug of war to end the show. So I'm interested to see if that leads to anything because can't be teasing us with Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky and then take it away to give us Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan when that peaked at SummerSlam.
Yes. Yeah, like you said here, Raquel took the riptide through the table. Rhea Ripley picked up the win here, and afterwards, Io came down, got her lick back on Liv, and she went to pick up the belt, and they ended up doing the same kind of tug of war thing that they did on NXT between Stephanie Vaquer and Julia to tease what could be a match between those two later, and I want Io to win, man. I want Io to win Saturday. I think Io versus Rhea is an infinitely better match. At this point, it is a much better feud. I just want them to do something different with the women. I've been disappointed with a lot of the stuff with women on Raw. I think SmackDown has utilized their women better overall as of late. But this was a step in the right direction, especially since the IC tournament started. You could see that there's more of a direction for the women now. They're getting back to using more of the women regularly. And I agree with the comment from earlier that this was really the women's show. They did a large percentage of the wrestling here. Ending the night on them was the right move. I'm just ready for this Liv and Rhea thing, man. I'm ready.
It's just dominated way too much time. Like, yes. I think that they should have like wrapped it up in the fall and then moved on to putting Io Sky, putting your Bianca Belairs back into the title scene. Like having them in the tag team division. Yeah, it helped out the tag team division. Tag team division got more attention than it's ever had, the women's tag team division for that. But I feel like it's kind of handicapped the women's title scenes, the main titles. I think that both Liv and Nia have not been all that great since SummerSlam. Like the crash out on Nia Jax's PLE performances, I'm sorry, it got to be documented. We got to be real about it. Like, I'm not trying to bash anybody. I think Nia Jax is going to be my most improved wrestler of the year. January through August, she was a contributor, and she's already had a much better run in this run than she ever did in a longer run in her first time in WWE. But we got to be real. It has not been up to par since she won the title at SummerSlam. And Liv, like I said, we know the formula. If you know the formula and you like it, you've been getting a lot of it. And if you don't like it, you're annoyed and you want Liv to lose this title. So I understand where Phil's coming from.
I think personally Nia has been the better champion of the two. I've enjoyed a lot more of what Nia's done. I like the Bayley match at SummerSlam. She's taken a lot of flack from the opening of that War Games match, which wasn't great. Specifically, some of the weapon shot in that were not great. I just saw Rikishi talking about the chair shots. He's like, swing that damn thing, which is very funny. But yeah, I think Nia's been a better champion, and I just think the dynamic between her and Tiffany Stratton currently is more interesting than what they're doing with Liv and Rhea. So I've been personally more engaged, at least with that title run, for those reasons. But yeah, I'm just ready for them to do something else with the world title on Raw. I'm ready for them to move on to a new feud for Rhea. I think she desperately needs a new opponent. She needs a new storyline. It's just time.
So if you had the pen, what would be your women's world title match at WrestleMania?
That is tough. I kind of want Io to win. If it was my choice, I would have Io win this thing. And I think if you want to do like a big world title match that is probably going to have like the graps in terms of like the storyline stuff you probably can do on SmackDown, I think Io with that belt, and having Becky come back is the move. Io versus Becky at WrestleMania is the match, in my opinion.
That sounds like a big match, because I was thinking they WWE. I really feel like they're going to drag these Judgment Day and Terra Twins feuds all the way to WrestleMania. So I thought the best case scenario for us would be a Liv, Rhea, Becky triple threat for the women's world title. I 100% agree with you. Io versus Becky sounds much better, but I feel like you have to get Rhea Ripley in your women's world title match. She's been the biggest female star in the company. So I think that I would probably say, if I had the pen, it would be Becky versus Rhea too, because Becky was not 100% at WrestleMania 40 and they still had a great match. Hopefully she's 100% this year, not sick like she was this year, and we can get an even better match next year.
That makes sense as well. I think you're right, though. This Rhea is going to be in a world title picture in some way at WrestleMania. There's no way. She's one of the biggest stars in the company, not just in the women's division. One of the biggest stars they have. So it's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is all of our topics. I think last call for super chats. I don't think we have any more. Let me double check.
No, I don't think so.
My laptop is buzzing at me constantly.
It's like you've reached the time limit for this stream, Phil. It's an alarm.
But yeah, this has been Fightful's post show for Raw. Enjoyable episode of Raw. I would have liked more wrestling, but you know, it is what it is. I think this was a good way to set up Saturday Night Main Event. Very much looking forward to that show. A lot of good matchups coming ahead. Very much looking forward to seeing how this transfer window can play into WrestleMania season as well. So there was a lot to set up here. I think we did a lot to set up returning SRS and Ibu next week. I'm seeing in our chat that Ibu has upset the Live Hive, so I'm sure he'll show up next week to explain himself.
Sure, that will go well. I thought tonight was, like you said, a solid show, and I thought it was a more effective go-home show than we've gotten for a lot of the PLEs this year. As far as hyping up Saturday night's main event, I thought they did a better job with this episode of Monday Night Raw than, say, the Monday Night Raw before Survivor Series, hyping up that show. I thought this show effectively made you want to see Saturday's show a little bit more.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I didn't think about it that way, but I do think this was a very good go-home show for Saturday Night Main Event. And with only about 2 or 3 weeks left in this month, there is a lot to build into WrestleMania season. There's a lot of intrigue, getting a lot of the heels back on the board, getting Drew McIntyre back on the board ahead of Royal Rumble. And like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of intrigue going into the women's match. So very much excited to see where this company ends this year before we head to Indianapolis for Royal Rumble.
Indeed, indeed. So I just want to say this since we got a little bit more time to say our sign-offs. Phil, I had so much fun Saturday and today. Let's not make it like a whole 2 years before we do a stream together, because we tend to do that where we have fun on a stream and then we don't do another stream for like another 2 years. Let's not do that this time. All right. I'm just gonna put that out there.
We almost had the exact same team from Collision. Iridian was unable to do the stream because she had some work tonight. But shout out to Iridian. Definitely have to get on a stream with you and Iridian again soon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Again, SRS and Ebu will be back with your regular scheduled programming next week. But this has been Phil Lindsey, co-host of Grapsity. You can see that every Saturday on this very YouTube channel at noon Eastern time with me and Righteous Reg. Tell them where they can find you.
Find me on the Twitter machine at TrueHeelSP3. That is TrueHeelSP3. And I will be live tomorrow morning with Jeremy Lambert over on Fightful's sister channel, the mother station, Fightful Overbooked for FMC. Let's talk about my pitiful Lakers stretch over the last couple of days.
Let's talk about that collapse from the other night.
Got to talk about that tomorrow morning. So gonna try to get a good sleep tonight, and we'll also be talking about the challenge, and I'll talk some about 90 Day Fiance. So check me out over there. I'm on this channel on Thursdays following Ring of Honor. Me and Kate talking about ROH TV. Join us live Thursday 9 p.m. Eastern time. And yes, always enjoy all the great content here at Fightful. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for everything, and check me out over on True Hill Heat Sports and Entertainment, as well as True Hill Heat Wrestling. I'll be live there to talk more about Monday Night Raw tomorrow, because I'm a weirdo that's on YouTube every day, it seems. I'm tired.
Appreciate you guys for the support. Appreciate your super chats and humper chats. This is Phil Lindsey, SP3. We're out of here.